the other one, just in kind of inspiration, is those Pixar art books. I forgot which one that was really cool. I know there's the Incredibles, where they have their mood boards, you know?
Yeah.
Like the whole movie, but it's just the colors for every scene, and you can see how the feeling of the movie changes as you go.
Mm-hmm.
Those are pretty cool.
They are.
I have a few of those. Just really cool looking to see how they thought about just the colors of their scenes as it transitions. It's really cool to look at that.
Yeah.
And then I brought this one just to show how amazingly lucky everybody watching is to have the resources that they do now in learning color, because everybody watching right now, this is how people used to study color. You guys see me flipping this book?
I read that entire book from beginning to end.
So fun. Look at how inspiring those colors are.
So you're not recommending it?
No! I mean, I've never read it. It might be amazing. The theory in here might be so good. Probably. I mean, I have it for some reason on here, but come on, there is no way I'm learning about color from a textbook that has no color in it.
When I look at you flip through that book, it gives me a feeling that I've heard some rock and rollers talk about the 60s or 70s, is that they were so on drugs that they say, I can't remember anything. It was just a big blur.
What? Wait, how is that related?
I read that book.
And it's a big blur?
I can't remember. And I read it out of responsibility. This is
Right.
Walter Sargent's book was one, but there are some books that are classic text, like Johannes Itten, Itten. There's a big, thick version of it, and there's a shorter version of it. Those actually are useful, and he introduces the issue of comparing color to music, color notes, color chords, color harmonies.
Yeah.
He's very big on context, very big on the color exists around other colors. And so it's not just that you've got a saxophone or a cello or whatever, you've got it interacting with other instruments. And so he was quite disciplined in his approach to that.
Yeah.
But I think if I were a student seeking to know color now, no mystery where I'd go. I would go to James Gurney's book. My criticism of Alla Prima was that it was for oil painters. Because I was not painting in oil, and a number of the things he said were specifically.
Oh, almost everything. It's about how to paint in oil.
That was it.
Painting. But it's Alla prima painting, which is a technique for specifically oil paint.
Yeah.
You're not going to do that with watercolor. You
Right.
can do it with acrylic.
Now you can do it with opaque acrylic, right?
Yes.
Right.
But it's Alla prima paint. It's a very specific style.
Yes. It was a great book. I'm glad I read it.
Yeah.
But it was not.
But also, what are you doing with watercolors?
What am I doing with it?
Just kidding. I was just trying to start with oil painting is king. So.
Well, oil painting, and one of the things we found out is that for people who are going to go into it as a profession, that you will make more money doing an oil paint. That if you did a watercolor of the same size, it will sell for less. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me.
That's true.
I love the look of watercolor.
I like the look of watercolors as well.
Winslow Homer's watercolors are better than his oil paintings in some of our opinions. His oil paintings were great, but there was something about his watercolors. Sargent, we can't say one's better than the other because he's so good at both of them.
Sargent's watercolors.
They are so good. They're breathtaking.
Yeah.
Homer and Sargent were the two ones who dominated the class, and there were scores of others, a lot of them British. Then the Americans started to come up with a lot of the watercolors, early part of the 20th century. But we were learning about painting history specifically through the lens of great watercolorists. And there's so many different approaches to it, too. But back to color.
What are your resources?
Marco Bucci, Ahmed Al-Douri, did I pronounce his name right?
Yeah.
Ahmed, forgive me if I didn't.
No, that's right.
Jeremy Vickery. Jeremy Vickery is a famous color teacher, and just show the placard of his what is it called? Coloring with painting with light or something like that?
Yeah, 101.
Oh, yeah.
And he has a 102 as well.
And
They're all on program.
They're all on program, and he's a good teacher. He did Noman DVDs years ago. Vance Kovacs.
No, that's on program.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. I would go to some good colorists who also teach well and learn from them, and then just
You're talking about those three, right?
I'm talking about.
I'm not talking like,
yeah.
there's Marco Bucci, Jeremy Vickery, Ahmed Al-Duri, but then I would also go to some that teach well. That's awesome.
Okay, then let me rephrase it. I was complimenting their
Yeah.
teaching, but no, I was trying to put it in. I was trying to set it up.
Yeah, they are the ones that teach.
Don't just go to good colorists. Go to good colorists who teach well.
Yeah.
You've got at least 3 of them.
Which one would you start with?
I don't know, because I have only seen little snippets of those courses. I have not gone through those courses, so I can't say which one is best. But you could include in this.
If you want like a really well structured theory thing, Jeremy Vickery's 101 and 102 is like a really good package.
You could have a podcast with the 3 of them. Do a live stream with the 3 of them where they duke it out for which ones is best.
Or which of the courses is best?
Yeah, wouldn't
I
that
feel
be
like it would be
great?
so boring because they would just be like,
Because they're agreeable
"Get
guys.
used to it."
Yeah.
They'd be like, yeah, yours is good.
Oh, but if we get some real good testosterone fueled aggression,
Ah, give 'em drugs. And then switch.
and then put them in mode.
Yeah.
Oh man, your course sucks.
Yeah, crushing your nails.
Yeah. Celebrating toxic masculinity.
Give them all rabies.
No way, but
Inject
that's
them full of toxic paint.
Toxic paint? Yes. Everyone gets a different pigment, see which one wins.
Okay, what do we
You
do?
get the lead. So I have one more section I want to go through, and this is a juicy one.
I'm listening.
So I want to go through some common mistakes that I brainstormed that I see with students when they're learning color. And these are in random order. The first one is bad lighting in your studio or even when you're out plein air painting. There's such thing as bad lighting. So in your studio, this is something you can control a little bit better. Just get a neutral bulb. 5,000 Kelvin.
Yeah.
Make sure it's bright enough.
And diffuse enough.
Yes. And put it in a spot where you're not seeing a reflection on your palette, so you can see your color. That's more of an issue with recording. But yeah, neutral light, high CRI rating, bright enough for your studio. That's not that hard to do. There's so many bulbs out there now, and you just order one online and just do it. When you're plein air painting or going outdoors, don't put your painting facing the light. Because then when you go bring it inside, it's gonna look very different. You're never gonna look at that painting in sunlight again. You're gonna paint it in sunlight, and then it will always be with that indoors. It's gonna look very different. Plus, it'll ruin your eyes. You're gonna be staring at this bright white canvas, or this canvas that's reflecting sunlight right into your eyes. You're gonna blind yourself if you do this regularly. So you get an umbrella, or you just face the painting away from the sun, so it's always in the shade. James Green actually has some ideas about how you could set up to diffuse the light on your canvas. So good lighting is really important to be able to paint and observe the colors. Bad reference. So painting from life is the best, but if you're going to be painting from a photo, it's just, you gotta know that you're losing so much of color specifically when you print something out. So just try to get the highest quality print you can. As you're starting to learn, just try to avoid that as much as possible. Like you really gotta learn the colors from reality, and so that you can then apply that to the photos that you're using as reference. Because if you go several years from the beginning learning color from photos, then you're just gonna take that and apply it to when you go to life, and your stuff is gonna look like photos.
Yeah.
There's so much richness and beauty in the subtleties, in the shadows, that you lose completely in a photo. For digital artists specifically, like eyedropper addiction, if you're using reference and you just pick the color and use it, and you pick the color and use it, you'll never learn how to mix it, you'll never learn how to pick the right color, or just how to jazz with the colors and pick the right ones based on how they feel. You're just kind of like getting an answer, which isn't even an answer, you're just picking it from a photo, which is already a bad version of color. The photo loses so much of the color, so just don't do the eyedropper thing. Don't get addicted to that. Especially if you're just starting to learn color.
Good advice.
This one. So in ateliers, this is like tube collecting.
What's it mean?
Oh, tube collect. So the teacher's demoing, 30 minutes goes by, and then a bunch of people raise their hand with questions. What color is that? Well, what about that one? What's that? those are the wrong questions. Because the trap there is that a lot of people think that getting the right selection of paint tubes is the answer to good color. And they'll focus in on it and try to, I don't know why, but for years, they'll just try to collect the best tubes of paint. They'll go to different workshops. They'll ask this artist what their colors are, and this artist what their colors are, and they'll just get them all. And they never really get good at color. Because they think the answer is the specific tubes that they choose. But it's not. You can put random colors on a palette to good colors, and they'll create something good. Because they can, like jazz, they can just figure it out. It's like a little puzzle, and they'll harmonize anything. That's how you learn color. It's not selecting the correct tube. So just don't get into the trap of asking every instructor what color paint that is. Same with brushes. What kind of brush are you using?
Yeah. If it's the Kim Jong-gi, what kind of pencil is that?
Yeah, exactly. We scoff at it. So yeah, don't collect tubes. I mean, just those palettes I mentioned, just do that. Try to mimic other people picking one of those palettes. And you're good. You never have to ask for color. Oh, local color trap. When you're painting something, you have a preconceived notion of what color something is. You're painting a red apple, it's red. So you're just gonna reach for the red. The local color of something is always influenced by the light, by the environment. When you look at a red apple, you always have to start by asking, how does the environment and the lighting change that red? Is the shadow getting a reflection from the table, from the wall, or is there a yellow apple next to it and it's got a little yellow in the shadow? Is the light yellow and it's making some of the halftones a little bit more orangey, whereas the darker halftones are maybe going to more purpley? How are the colors shifting based on the light and the environment? Not, is this a red apple or a green apple? That is the more important question. So don't fall for the local color.
Yeah, because you can have a red apple that doesn't appear red at all if you light it with a colored light.
Yeah, you got blue light. It's not going to be red apple. Yeah, we never mentioned it.
Yeah, I didn't mention that. Well, we did find it out when we did those things at the Natural History Museum. That you go out and paint it outdoors, and then you come back into the room, and it's like, I didn't know I chose those colors, because you've changed the context. The way they light it in that room is very different from outdoors.
Yeah, and that's why you kind of mentioned it with schemes. You can apply any color scheme to any subject because it doesn't matter what the color of the objects are. The scheme is more about the environment and the lighting conditions.
Yeah,
You can
that's a
insert any
big
object
deal.
into it.
Yeah. Otherwise, you get too literal, like a coloring book, which has its charm.
Yeah.
But yes, if you're really trying to paint something where you're inventing the color, with a coloring book, you can invent your color. So you're already given permission.
You go against the
Yeah, you can just say, I'll do it this color because I like this color scheme. So you're immediately going into the color scheme thing of, I'm making up my own.
Ooh, we should start a new group, Color Book Rebels. You go against the
I like
numbers.
that, yeah. Do the opposite. Oh, manipulated you.
Yeah, that's funny. Alright, the next one is getting low quality paint. Some people don't have enough money to get the good ones, so they'll go for the cheapest ones, and they actually mix differently. You'll mix reds and yellows together, and you'll just get this like dirty. You won't get an orange. You'll just get some blue paint. You add white to it, and it completely destroys everything else. Right? Just the pigment doesn't hold any strength. I always heard instructors say that, and I was like, I've never experienced this. Like, what colors are bad? Like, what tube of paint is bad? I've never tried them. And then I went and I taught at a high school. And I was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
Now I know what they're talking about. They had, first of all, it was acrylic paint. No, sorry, it was not acrylic paint. It was water-soluble oils.
Oh, really?
And they were really cheap water-soluble oils. I'm sure there's some good ones that actually can do great stuff, but these were really cheap water-soluble oils. And I just remember mixing colors and then going towards something completely random. I was like, how did that just happen? And I was confused because I was like trying to teach someone,
Yeah.
and I'm like trying to mix the colors. I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm teaching. Like, I thought I was wrong for something because things were just not mixing the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And you just cannot replicate. They don't have a range at all.
Yeah.
You can't replicate what you're painting in the photo.
They're cheaper colors.
That's the problem, is the pigment doesn't hold, and when you mix it with another pigment, they have some other chemical reaction that just like shifts them towards green or something
Yeah.
when it's supposed to become orange or red.
I had the same experience. Well, Winsor Newton has a line of student watercolors called Cotmans, which was a big mistake. Cotman was a good watercolorist, British watercolorist, and they named their cheaper line after him. They're not bad. In fact, one thing I learned is I had a student who was using them, and he was so good when he'd do his little studies. His choices were so good. I thought, the cheapest watercolors that we use in this classroom, and we've got a student who's making some of the nicest watercolors from them.
I bet you can go really cheap with watercolor and still get really good paint.
But not with oil?
Not with water soluble. No, not with oil.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, you can get cheap enough to where it's like affordable for
Yeah.
students. But I'm talking about like these are high school, so they probably paid $5 for like a whole set.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, jeez,
Well,
what is that?
Yeah, with the Winsor Newtons, when you compare the same color of the Cotman and the other one, there's no comparison. The professional line is just way better than the student line. So yeah, good materials.
The next one is high quality paint. So your paint is way too good, way too expensive. It's a similar kind of student that would always ask me what kind of color that is. They're gonna go for the Rolls Royce
Yeah.
paint tube because they think that's gonna make their painting better.
Right.
But it's not. You can get a middle of the line, affordable color that's is made well by a good brand, and it's all you need. You do not need to pay triple the price for the specific color that is gonna give you magical powers or something.
Yeah.
You don't need that. In fact, if you try to do that, you might start to kind of get a little paralyzed because it's like, oh my god, this is expensive. I need to like, treat this right. You don't experiment. You don't just like throw
Yeah.
stuff on the palette. You're scared because it's so expensive. So I would stay away from going too far in either direction. Middle of the line, gambling, Winsor Newton,
Daniel Smith.
sure.
Yeah.
But aren't they pretty expensive?
Well, yeah, they
can
are,
get
but
the
you
handmade
figure
mom and pop
Bertsiana is
ones.
always cheap, Rossiana is always cheap,
Sure.
the Series 1 are always cheap, and there's some great Series.
You can go for the really high, expensive brands and get their brown umber and it'll also be cheap.
Yeah.
But we're talking about like if you're trying to get the full set, if you're going for Cadmiums.
Oh, yeah.
And Williams.
So spin wisely.
Yeah. Okay. You'll hear muddy colors a lot.
Mhm.
Muddy colors usually just mean, this is something I got from Richard Schmidt, it usually just means the temperature is wrong.
Mhm.
It might mean that it's too cold or it's too warm. And typically, not every time, but if your colors are muddy, it means you need to start shifting the temperature. That's it.
Observation.
Garish colors, you mentioned this. This is where everything is too saturated. This is a very beginner mistake. You default to making everything bright because your values aren't working correctly. We don't know how to make the values pop, so we make the saturation pop. This was one thing I did.
Every kid.
It was like, this is boring. And then I would just default to whatever color.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to control composition. I didn't know how to make my shapes more interesting. I didn't know how to make my values really powerful.
Mhm.
Color is the easiest one because there's already bright colors on my palette. So just reach for those. Chalky colors. This is when you add too much white to everything.
Mhm.
Even your midtones, you start reaching for white. It just it pollutes every single mixture you have. It's fine to have it in a lot of different mixtures, but it starts to get into everything. Some people aren't clean enough in their mixtures that they actually start getting white into like some of their shadows that are supposed to be a little bit more like deep and richer.
Mhm.
And when you have really chalky effect, it just looks like you like smooth milk all over your painting. It just doesn't
Yeah.
have that nice clean.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean everything needs to be bright, but it's just got this white sheen over it.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good.
Chalky is usually not a compliment.
No, it's usually not. And the same thing with the dark. The darks, it doesn't look chalky. It looks like it's covered in dust. When your shadows just got this dark dust layer to them, but then you're like, oh no, that's how you make paint. It doesn't have dust on it, but it looks like it does.
Yeah.
It's just, it kills your shadows.
Dusty is usually not a compliment.
The last one is being stingy with paint tubes.
Okay.
This was very common. This is one thing that I would constantly try to get out of my students when they were setting up. This is the very beginning of class, and I would see little puddles of paint on the palette because they spent money on it. They don't want to waste any drop of paint, and that leads to bad mixtures. It's really hard not to just bring in the next mixture from the previous mixture to the next mixture because stuff. There's more in your brush than you're mixing on the palette, and that just pollutes everything. And you just can't mix good colors, and you're just overly conscious of saving money while you're painting instead of just painting. And so I always put way too much, and everybody's like, "Woo!" And then at the end of class, I scrape it off and throw it in the trash, and you're like,
Norman Rockwell talked about that. He thought a lot of painters did not do as well as they could do because they were too stingy with the paint.
yeah. And I would say, well, you're wasting more paint because you're painting stuff.
Wow.
I know it's a snarky remark, but it's
Yeah. Aggressive.
wasting paint. If you're not really practicing, and if you're just developing bad habits with what you're doing right now, are you actually using the paint well at all? Any of it?
Yeah.
All of it is a waste.
Good point.
So that's it. That's my list.
So we done?
I think so. Well, Marshall, it's good to be back. Not really. We got one more episode, and then we're probably gonna take a big break again.
Yeah.
It sounded like you were saying it's not really good to be back.
It's really good to be back. No, I'm just kidding. It isn't.
No, not really. We're not really back. We're back for a very short period of time. But what are we doing next week?
Next week?
Next episode, Marshall.
I don't know. You tell me. What are we doing next time?
What are we doing in 10 minutes?
What are we doing?
What are we recording?
It's no, we didn't even mention that this is by request.
Oh, that's true.
Why did we do this one on color? It's not one I volunteered for.
So I did a Kickstarter, sold some books, and one of the rewards, or was it what do you call the bump thing?
Stretch goals.
Stretch goal. Was that Marshall and I would do 2 more draftsman episodes, and that the people who helped to fund the campaign would decide what topics we talk about. So we did like a very broad survey of like general ideas of what people like, and then we saw the results from that, and we're like, oh, people like when we talk about developing some skill stuff. So we're like, okay, let's give. Then we did another survey where we gave some more specifics, and people chose color and the intermediate plateau.
The intermediate plateau in the creative process. When you're working on a project, you get tired and you wonder whether you should quit or should go on through. Is that what it was?
Kind of. The intermediate plateau is that like most artists get stuck being intermediate artists. They never really make it to becoming like advanced professionals.
So that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you're not ready for that one?
Well, I wasn't ready for exactly that, but I think it's close enough. I know there was a little bit of a request of Marshall doing book reports.
No, there was no request.
Yeah, there was a little bit of it. It was like a tiny.
That was the lowest rated.
Maybe it was the smallest percent of it all, but it still existed. But yeah, I know that it doesn't.
It was the lowest rated topic.
Yeah, well, thanks.
I actually voted like 100 times just to rate it.
Just to bring it down. Thank you, Stan. Good seeing you.
All right, bye everybody.
Is your cleanser actually stripping your skin? Try Olay Cleansing Melts, a gentle way to deep clean without the damaging sulfates found in some cleansers. Skin that feels soft, not stripped, in one wash, and improved tone and texture in 7 days.
It's Kaylee's first time changing her own oil, and an AutoZone helps her find the right parts and a great deal. Celebrate free at AutoZone with free parts, products, and services until July 28th.
Without the ones like you working tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. No matter your industry, Grainger's here for you with professional-grade supplies. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Cookie crunch.
You just doing all this fighting. This is all getting cut because Mark is chewing.
Marshall, you suck.
What?
I even told you that you suck.
You're chewing. Oh, well, no. I'm not supposed to do that. That's wrong.
Don't I do that on podcasts? Don't I eat? see when you
Of
start
course,
talking.
can't quite see you, but
One eye.
yeah, one eye is enough. Hi, Stan.
Hey. So, yeah.
Anything new with you, Stan?
Well, I mean, we released that episode on the podcast ending. Have you read the comments at all?
There were a lot of comments, and there were a lot of loving comments.
Uh-huh. I haven't read any of them. I'm avoiding jumping in there.
I waited until the end of the week
Uh-huh.
to see what the gestalt was. And yeah, it was mostly loving. And a few people said, yeah, it's getting old. Yeah.
Some people get it.
Yeah.
Like, I was about to stop
I've
listening
heard
to
you say that before. So that's actually a supportive comment.
Yeah.
There were a couple of comments on the voicemails episode that just released where people were saying, like, I didn't get it when they announced the end, but now seeing how many times they said, we already talked about this in a previous episode, yeah, I kind of get it.
Well, the word's out now.
Yeah.
There's no going back from it, but that's
Well,
okay.
we could.
It's, yeah,
There's no way. You'd be like, just kidding.
it's going to be just like life. It's going to happen. We're going to take it as it happens.
That's true.
Are you planning on doing, like, the occasional special episode of me?
There's no plan.
There's no plan.
There's no plan to do an occasional one, but there's also no plan to not do an occasional one.
Right. Charlie, isn't life interesting? You just don't know. You can't say it's going to be one way. You can't say it's going to be another.
Yeah, Charlie, what do you know?
You can only say that something's going to happen. The only safe prophecy is something's going to happen.
How do you know that?
I know it. Something's going to happen.
But what if things just stop
I
happening?
don't want to debate this. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, the word is out that we are finishing, and that's old news. Any new news?
Well, the new news is that, the comments
Yeah.
that we're commenting on. New news. Quinn is walking.
Quinn is walking. So what are we at? About a year plus?
She's 13 months. She should be walking by now. Well, she is walking by now, but
That's an interesting thing.
yeah. But no, she walked through a full hallway this morning.
On her own.
Yeah.
I mean, there was cheering, and was there that feeling of I did it?
Yeah, she was excited. Yeah. And then Cooper ran up to her and hugged her, and she fell down.
Wow.
Yeah.
When they start walking, they start running really quickly thereafter, as you know.
Yeah.
Exciting time.
Yeah, and then they start falling on the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not exciting.
All a part of life.
Yeah. What else is new? Christian's back.
Christian's back.
You know what I want to do in this episode? Just because people don't want us to do it.
Oh, I know what you want to do. Yeah.
A Christian's crazy questions. Just because he's back.
Well, it might work this time because
It might work this time.
it won't be over a phone. He's actually here.
Oh, that's true. It was on my phone before.
The awareness that the podcast is going to end anyway
I don't care.
means
Yeah,
that
If this is bad.
good, no more of that. Or they can say, wait a second, I recant. I want more Christian's crazy questions, and it leads to the next stage in your life.
Oh, right. You start your own podcast called Christian's Crazy Questions.
Well, I already have my own podcast.
But it's not called Christian's Crazy Questions.
Well, but they're Christian food questions are part of the Special Game Podcast.
Are they?
Yeah, they are.
Here's my
Do you have a segment in there where you have music playing like Christian's Crazy Questions? And then you do it.
Let's start it today.
Okay, cool.
And you should post those clips. So you should cut those clips out of Christian's Crazy Questions and post them as like 5-minute little
Yeah,
segments as promos for the podcast.
it's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea. You should talk to them more often.
I've been on for 4 months.
Yeah.
Christian, today I commit publicly that I will do a podcast with you, and that we will include a Christian's Crazy Questions from Marshall.
Okay, cool. I'll think of it.
Okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. All right, we're off to a good start. This is a great feeling.
Hey, Marshall, what's your story?
What's my story? This is like a lead into it. Isn't
You
it?
see what I did?
Oh, yeah, you're clever.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
What's my story?
What's
Well,
new with
the
you?
story is a complex thing. I'm old.
No, not your actual story. Like, what's new with you?
Oh, what's new with me? Well, the finishing up of the Draftsman podcast is a big deal in my life, Stan.
Yeah, we just talked about it.
Yeah, but we've already talked about it, so it's old news.
What else?
It's an
What
old
else?
story. What else is a new story?
Let's move on.
We've got 3 more podcasts to do. Those
To
are
record.
important.
3 more after this one.
Really?
Yeah. We're going on a museum trip.
Yeah.
We got 2 more creativity.
I didn't know we had 2 more on creativity.
Yeah.
More responsibility than I expected.
So that's what you guys got to look forward to. We got a museum trip. We're actually going to go to the Getty and
Yeah.
just talk about stuff, and then we're doing creativity. Ending it with creativity.
Okay.
It all started with creativity.
Okay. What do you want to talk about today?
Story. Storytelling.
Here's what I'm thinking.
This could be a 3-hour.
The first question that we should bring up is why study storytelling?
Okay.
Okay.
Marshall, why should I study storytelling?
Well, I don't know why you should study storytelling, but that's a question that
I am the rest of the world.
Okay. Let me tell you why I wanted to study storytelling.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't even ask. I don't exist. It's fine. Do your own thing.
Just jump in.
Yeah.
I wanted to study storytelling because of a love of stories from childhood. These included television shows like Lost in Space. They included children's books. They included movies, sometimes old movies seen on TV. And I loved them so much that I decided when I was a teenager or 18, I thought, I want to be a professional storyteller. So that was my reason for studying stories. How about you? What is your reason?
The more I do things, the more I realize that almost everything has some aspect of storytelling in it.
Yeah.
The way we interact with other people, we're always telling us some story about something, or even if we're explaining or teaching something, we kind of have to include some kind of story element to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing something as boring as growing a business, you have to tell a story about your business. If you're an artist, you have to tell a story about who you are, this brand of you. It's storytelling.
There's a whole bunch of books on that too, like
On artist
Peter
brands and
Gruber's
stories.
Tell to Win, which I never made it through it. That was one of those things that if you're going to succeed in business, that your product, your service is a story. Storynomics. There's a number of them where you're not selling a product so much as you're selling the opportunity to participate in a narrative.
Yeah. It just seems to me like if you're good at storytelling, you will be good at a lot of things in life in general, not just business, but just like social and all sorts of stuff.
Theoretically, yeah.
It just seems like it's a helpful skill to have.
You know I've got a lot of things to say. So one of the things I want to ask you are, were there stories in your childhood that really influenced you? That you remember back, that they put you in another world, you went back to them over and over because you loved them as stories?
As a kid,
Yeah, kid or teenager.
well, as a kid, I'm looking back at movies,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know what Heavyweights. The movie comes to mind. I watched that a lot.
Tell me about it. Give me a brief synopsis of Heavyweights.
Okay, Heavyweights. There's a group of overweight kids, teenagers, that get sent by their parents to a fat camp.
Hmm.
This camp has existed for a while, and these kids go there every year. But the year that this character, our hero in the story, this year someone buys this camp, and he's like a fitness guru, and he totally changes the way things are done. And no candy, they're only eating vegetables, they're running 15 miles a day, and everybody hates him, and it's about them trying to defeat him, and he's evil.
He kills the blob.
He kills the blob, yes.
Really?
Yes.
I'm not sure what that means, and maybe I should wait until I see Heavyweights.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's good.
Have you seen it when you're grown up?
I've seen portions of it. It's still good.
It
to
still
me.
holds up?
It's just because I watched it so many times. It's just hilarious to me.
Ranger knows that if you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, you go to great lengths, and sometimes heights, to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Granger for professional grade products and next day delivery. So you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRANGER, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Well, let me tell you, when I was a kid, there was a TV show called Lost in Space. This was late 60s. So I was, I don't know, I think 7, 8, 9 when it came out. And we cared about that show so much that every week I was hanging on what was going to happen next week because they'd end on cliffhangers.
Mhm.
And then they'd resolve the cliffhangers really stupidly. We were sometimes very disappointed in that, but then
Right, they resolve it in the first 30 seconds of the next.
yeah, they would resolve it with some accident sometimes. The whole thing was this is to make it so that all week you're going to be concerned about the Robinson family and how they're lost in space and what's going to happen to them. The monster's going to get them, and then the next week the monster has a heart attack just before he gets them, or something stupid like that. We were often disappointed, but the disappointment only lasted for a moment because then the new issue would come up
The setup.
and we were involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was emotionally connected to it. I cared about it. And then when I watched some of them about 5 years ago with some students, at any given moment, if we're alive, we are dying. But sometimes we're aware we are dying. And trying to watch Lost in Space episodes as a grown-up, you become really aware that you're dying. It's an hour-long episode, and it's so bad, it does not hold up.
Huh.
So that is an example, and many of the television shows of my youth that were such wonderful stories to us.
So do they don't hold up because they're actually bad stories?
Yeah,
or the production is bad.
They're both.
Well, okay.
Yeah. But you know, some of the stories, there was one, but see, our babysitters, Bob and Wanda, wrote episodes of Lost in Space. We would watch them on TV and it would have their names on there. We'd cheer. I'd call up Bob afterwards. We talked a couple weeks ago about receiving compliments. I would tell Bob in my 7-year-old enthusiasm that that was the best Lost in Space that was ever done. That one of IDAC, Instant Destroyer and Killer, Crush, Kill, Destroy. It's got to be seen.
Warning, I put beast in one head. Crush. Kill. Destroy. Crush. Kill. Destroy.
And Bob would say, "Thank you, Marshall. You don't know how much that means to me." So this was a big deal socially, as well as just developing my consciousness for what I thought was a good story.
Okay.
And he later told me, he said, "We knew they were awful. We knew they were awful when we were doing it. We were entertaining children." And he also said, because they were in TV for over a decade, about 15 years, and they got out of TV. They made their money and got out of it. I said, "Why did you get out of television?" He said, "It would be nice to be judged for your own incompetence for a change, because you wrote the script, but it changed all over the place according to what was needed by the network, what the network wanted." So anyway, I'm getting ahead of the story though.
Oh,
Let me back up. Let me back
you're
up.
being judged by your own incompetence.
I'm being judged by my own incompetence, which is okay. Here's the thing. Bob and Wanda disliked television so much that when they made their fortune, they got out of it, got back into writing espionage novels, which they loved to do, and they did better. And that was in 1970, and then they moved away from Southern California, so I didn't see them
Yeah,
again.
what's the point of this story?
I'm lost in the story. Yeah, I am lost in
This is
story.
ironic.
You're bringing up a valuable thing.
What is it? Did I actually
Yeah.
do something good?
Yeah, irony. The storyteller who starts a story and does not know where he's going and ends up
Oh,
with
nice
a terrible
save.
story. Okay, let's do this. You just told me about heavyweights and that it held up.
Right.
Let me tell you, I brought you a book that when I was 11 or 12 years old, there was a book called My Father's Dragon, written by a mother and daughter, Ruth Stiles Gannett and Ruth Chrisman Gannett, that when I read the first of this trilogy, My Father's Dragon, I was completely captured by it. It took me into another world. I read it a number of times. I checked it out at the library. And then when the library got rid of that book, I was not able to get it again. I didn't know how to, no way I could get it in a bookstore. I did not read the story again until I was about 50 years old, and I could not believe how well it held up. It uses a storytelling device of setups that will all be used throughout the story. It's perfect for kids, but it also holds up with a grown-up's point of view. And then there's another one. When I was 11 years old, Sunday afternoon, I turned on our little black and white TV, and it happened to open on the first scene of a movie from 1939. Jesse James, Tyrone Power, Henry Fonda, and I got so captured in that I was obsessed with Jesse James for about a year or so after that, enough to where it became a family issue that we've got a son who is in love with an outlaw. But I got so connected to this guy's decision to become an outlaw that it worked on me.
Sir? I just said howdy. Oh, howdy. What's your name? James? Jesse James?
And then I didn't see it until I was in my late 30s, and that was another one that it held up absolutely as a story. Really, really engaging story. It still holds up.
Okay.
Whatever it is.
So some things are good stories, and some things are bad stories. That's what I'm getting from you here.
Yeah, is that all you're getting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some things hold up.
Yeah.
Some things are good to kids. Some things are good to adults, and some things are good to both.
Well, I was kind of hoping to just make it a point that, some stories are good, some stories aren't so good.
Yeah, I got that part. That's what I said.
Okay.
Yeah. First, okay, why did you ask me what stories I was into as a kid? Was that supposed to make a point?
Yeah, it was. There were a couple things I was hoping out of that.
Because I could bring up another one.
Yeah, too. That's what I'm hoping for.
Maybe one that you know about.
Yeah.
Let's see if it goes where you.
Yeah.
Okay. Home Alone.
Oh, yeah.
I've watched that. I don't know how many times. A lot. I even reenacted it and filmed it and stuff, and with my cousin. But yeah, I mean, you know the story.
I know the
most
story.
people
It's a
do.
good story.
Yeah, as a kid, it still holds up. I
It
think.
does.
Yeah. So is that a better example for you with whatever plan you had there?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends on whether you have any things that you can locate about it.
About
If you're
the
going to be a
story?
storyteller, you say, this is someone who pulled off a story.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about it that grabbed me? And here's the reason I ask, is that when I was 11 years old, I had no idea anybody wrote that story. I wasn't thinking about filmmakers. All I know...
You were 11 when Home Alone came out?
No, when I watched Jesse James.
Okay.
It grabbed me and put me in an altered state of consciousness for the better part of 2 hours that then affected my life of empathy with this criminal. It's historically bull, but it was designed so that you would care about Jesse's problems.
Right. Okay. Well, as a kid, I identified with Macaulay Culkin's character. What was his name? Kevin.
Kevin McAllister.
Yeah. Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's a kid and he causes trouble, and so you feel for him, and then he makes a mistake, and then he has to solve a problem. And you're like rooting for him. He's the underdog. He's got these bad guys, which are like monsters. And he defeats them, and there's a lot of funny stuff.
Yeah.
So it grabs you with you're like waiting for the next funny thing.
The elaborate
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the amount of energy that he puts into making it look like he's home that night with all of the dancers and everything else. There's a lot of wish fulfillment for him.
Yeah. As a kid, I was like, oh man, I wish I could do that. Like, he comes up with such cool traps.
Right.
I want to come up with some cool traps.
You take stories that have worked on you in your naivety. And that you're not saying, well, the experts say that this is a good story.
Right.
This is a story that it is the story itself. Not necessarily the actors, not the production design, not the cool artwork, but the connection with the events that happen in there that really take me on a roller coaster ride of emotions. And then when you've got that and it holds up more than once or twice or thrice, then to go to it and say why. It's like finding a masterpiece of artwork and being so moved by it that eventually you say, I want to find out what it is that that artist did that I can be doing if I'm going to be a storyteller.
With the help of zero accounting software, I've got the right information at my fingertips. So business is a breeze. And I've got bigger plans. Search zero with an X.
72-hour odor protection with only 9 ingredients isn't a myth.
When vacation calls, Emergency supports your immune system with so much more than vitamin C. Be ready to dive in with Emergency. And for on-the-go immune support, try Emergency Crystals. No water needed.
Reaching your financial goals can feel impossible. Credit Karma gives you personalized guidance to improve your credit, savings, taxes, and more, so you can find your way to money. Intuit Credit Karma. Karma you can count on.
I herald his beginning. I herald your end. I herald Galactus.
What is that?
I mean, I'm guessing that the things they used here are their target were families, right? The writers wanted to connect with families, so there's something in there for every member of the family.
Yes.
Right. You can identify with the main character. You're a little kid who gets in trouble with the parents, and then you want to rebel, but then you feel bad, and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. You resolve an issue. There's the mom, and she feels bad for disciplining him. So now she's worried about being a little bit too hard, and so moms always maybe have this worry, and they can identify with the mom. And then there's the brother in there who's just annoyed by his little annoying brother. So it's like you have every member of the family that can identify with something, and
Good observation. It means that in this movie, everybody who's watching it is going to have a character that they can say, that's like me. That's what my experience is. I've got a little brother. I've got an older brother. I've got a sister who treats me that way. My mom is this way. My kid is that way. That is a principle of storytelling, is connecting, characters connect with an audience. And with Jesse James, it was actually his righteousness.
You were the
It was his moral outrage at what people were doing that he had to take it into his own hands, which again, it's not history, but I didn't know that when I was 11. All I knew was that I saw events unfolding, and I got very emotionally involved in it and connected
It's
to
a
it.
struggle to
Okay,
survive.
here's where I go from
Got
there.
to learn to stay
Having been in
alive.
love, those are just a few. I loved comics. I loved all sorts of story forms. And when I decided I want to be a storyteller, I set out to learn how to do it. I set out to learn craft. And I already told that on our Epiphanies episode, is that it was 10 years of actively seeking how do you craft a story. And there were no books on it, or if there were books on it, it was for playwrights. They were too hard to read. They weren't relevant to what I was doing. I asked Bob Duncan, how did you learn to craft a story for television? And he said, well, I certainly didn't learn anything in college. Let me tell you how we learned. And they had had an opportunity to write for television. They had been doing some documentary filmmaking. And he said that they rigged up open reel recorders to record the U.S. Steel Hour in the 1950s. It was a TV show each week, like we have a drama each week. They would do it on an open reel recorder, so it would run out of tape, and they'd have to thread it back in there, but they'd get enough to where they could listen to the audio of it, and then chart out what the story's doing, and then analyze it, and then figure, well, let's write a story like this. They were learning it by taking apart what was already happening, understanding it, and then running with that. But, I did that, but I was still in the dark. Finally, he said, just get Dwight Swain's book, Film Script Writing. That'll teach you everything you need to know. And I got Dwight Swain's book, Film Script Writing, after about 7 or 8 years of looking for it. You couldn't get it in bookstores. I read it, and that started to help. But it still wasn't enough. Now, the next thing I got to say is why I'm teaching storytelling when I did not go into it as a profession. It's because in that decade, I was so frustrated that I then spent the next 30 years trying to figure out what it was that made it work, and working with students, crafting. I was writing stories from the time I was in college all the way out of college, most of them failing, and then starting to gradually, on my own, figure out why they were failing. And I've got 2 great big categories of why they were failing, and some suggestions for people who want to master storytelling. what to do, how to invest your time in it.
Okay.
There were two areas that I knew nothing about. One was knowledge about the process. How do professionals go about crafting a story? I had no idea, so I just started trying to write a story and trying to get it right on the first time, and I had no knowledge of the second thing, which is what story elements are. What are the components of story from a professional who does it for a living, and what are some of the principles about how to do it more effectively? And it took a long time to get that from anyone who knew what they were talking about. I took classes, and the classes taught me nothing about how to do it. They left us to our own.
What did they teach?
They tended to just say, do this, write a story about this, write a story about this.
Well, they just like give you an assignment without
Give me an assignment.
giving you any tools.
And then when you present the assignment in class, everything got applause.
Okay. Yeah.
It didn't make any difference how incompetently crafted it was.
Right.
So there was no
It's a story.
of form. Right.
Yeah.
A person goes about painting, but they don't know anything about color temperatures. They don't know anything about values. They can't even define the word value. They don't know what form is. They don't understand how anatomy would be relevant to it. They don't know what atmospheric perspective is. And yet they're going to paint pictures and be a professional about it. It would help to take some time, and it takes about a year, maybe 2 or 3, to get one's head around what the elements of a story and the principles of the story are.
Okay.
For professionals.
Now-
And we can deal with those toward the end.
So, what are some common mistakes people make in the process?
Let me tell you a common mistake I made in the process,
Please do so, sir.
which is that I tried to get my stories into good condition in a first draft without knowing what I was doing. And
Is that a bad thing?
Pardon?
Is that a bad thing that you were trying to make it good?
It is when you begin micromanaging details
Okay.
without getting a large story form. It is
Okay.
analogous to working on details in a painting when the composition is not yet working. And you end up having to repaint over that. You wasted
Right.
all that time. Which
It's
is,
small.
that's
But
right.
you were doing small detail after small detail after small detail in order.
And then those small details are wasted.
Right.
Because you end up saying, if I'm going to change this character, if that event isn't working, that means all of that dialogue that I wrote, all of that clever stuff that I had in there, that has to be set aside.
It's so
or even
funny
thrown
that
away.
that's exactly so. When I was young, I don't know how old was I? Probably like 10. I
Mhm.
tried to write a novel.
Mhm.
I never finished it. God, I can't find it anymore. I wish I could. But it was exactly that. I started with chapter 1, and I just like started writing, and then I was done, and I was like, oh man, what happens next? And then I started writing chapter 2, and I never finished it because I didn't really know where to go from. I kind of like ran into a dead end, I think.
That happens to so many would-be storytellers. Is first of all, you took on a novel. It's like taking on a screenplay. That's one of the biggest mistakes a person can do. Is why not start with a 20-minute story? Why not start with a
I
10-minute
was
story?
like
Why not start
10,
with
man.
Yeah.
I was trying to do the things that I was really enjoying at the time. I think I was reading like Goosebumps, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to write my own Goosebumps book. Right?
Well, gosh, you are in luck now. Do you know why you're in luck now?
Why?
Because R.L. Stein
Is here?
here in the studio with us,
It's you!
and he is
You're the
giving
dude!
us a master class in how he writes Goosebumps stories, and he's going to give practical wisdom.
Dude, people are gonna get too excited. You're lying, right?
Yeah, I know.
God,
No.
damn it, Marshall!
R.L. Stein, for the cost of a master class or cost of a subscription, has a whole course. Even
Okay. Wait, what's his real name?
that's his real name.
No, it's not.
R.L. Stein is his real name.
That's like a stage.
That can't be his real
I think
name.
that is the public persona, though. Robert Williams.
It is actually Stein.
Yes.
No, why would it not be?
It feels like it's supposed to be an author that writes scary children's books.
Well, yeah, it does, which is great that his name is consonant with his profession. But I have 3 students who have taken the R.L. Stein masterclass, and gone through that work. And he talks about his process. Let me tell you, one of the things that he teaches about his process is that he comes up with his ending first. That is something I sure wish I'd known when I was younger.
Mmm.
What about Stein?
Irresistible
Just two names. Three names. Eric Appleby and Jovial Bob Stein.
So what's his birth name?
Jovial Appleby.
Hmm.
I thought R.L. Stein was a pseudonym that really took on.
Don't you love him?
Not
Is-
really.
Isn't he a lovable guy?
I mean, I haven't heard him speak. I just remember as a kid being like very angry at Goosebumps books because the covers always promised something so scary and then like the content never delivered.
Really?
Like there's one that's a diver that has a hammerhead shark that's swimming up to bite him. You read the book, there might be like one mention of a shark, and the rest of it is about saving a mermaid from poachers.
Okay, but that's
That's not his fault. That's the fault of the idiot
wow.
marketers making false listings.
Yeah, the cover probably came later, right?
Yeah.
After the story's written. But I mean, a lot of them did deliver on the cover, right? Maybe that one didn't, but
I felt like the majority of the ones I read didn't, like the Abominable Snowman of Pasadena. It has this big hulking Yeti, and then the story is about snowballs that freeze people.
Yeah. I'm so sorry about that.
yeah.
It's
Damn
a
it,
shame.
Marshall.
Absolutely. Let me tell you another thing about process. That so many students rely on templates because templates are popular. The hero's journey, the 5-act structure, the 22 steps to a great story, even Aristotle's 3-act structure. The stories have this. Templates have value, like anatomical charts that show you the proportions have value, but they are not the way professionals tend to work.
No, okay, hold on.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, it's his job to keep the power on. That's why he chooses Granger for professional grade products and next day delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call, click, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Is it that you don't try to fit in the template, you might just accidentally do it?
No.
Because there's I'm equating this to like composition, where there's plenty of compositional templates,
Yeah.
and you could look at plenty of masterpieces and be like, oh yeah, that is a classic triangle, like, Frazetta. Boom, there's the template. It's like, well, he was probably trying to do that.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's a good composition. He followed the template and it worked.
It is. But I don't
So,
think that it's a good idea to begin students who are learning pictorial composition to say memorize these templates or try to conform to these templates.
Right.
To study them has value, and to study the templates for storytelling has tremendous value because they are a logical sequence of the way the human mind works and what our emotions are hungry for in a story.
Back to the Future.
Yeah.
I heard it follows a template,
Oh, yeah.
and they did that intentionally,
Well, I would.
or not?
This is what you asked them about. Robert Zemeckis and
People
Bob
have,
Gale.
right, or no?
Oh yeah. They talked about the structure. They talked about how they wrote Back to the Future back in 1987 at a symposium.
But did they follow a template?
They learned story form. They
Is
learned.
that the same thing as saying they learned the template but not saying it?
No. I wouldn't use the term follow a template.
Okay.
And the reason why is because that puts the template in the position of a kind of power that can strangle the life out of it, much like putting me in charge of this conversation. I think it is more of a process of gathering material and familiarity and potential events, and then, as the process goes on, putting them in an order that will get the greatest effect. Does that move us in the direction of answering that?
Yeah. Okay. But you think that's what they did?
What they did is, again, I keep saying let them tell their story. Like, I'm just going to say, they learned, as the Pixar storytellers did when they were getting their act together. They learned from Robert McKee's seminar before it was a book.
Who's not? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. they learned about the elements of story.
Yeah. I guess, okay, let me see if I understand. You don't follow a template because you might try to follow it linearly, and that's not the point.
You may be bound by that template in a way that does not,
or in a way that the template doesn't mean to be followed.
Let's use the analogy of an anatomical proportional chart.
Yes.
I'm going to draw some superheroes in action. I'm going to draw some characters in a room that are having a family argument.
I know where you're going with this, and it's a bad analogy, I think.
There, I've got the anatomical chart. That lets me know each one of these is this proportion. Is that not a fair analogy?
It's not, because the chart is not a template for a finished product.
Exactly.
Wait, so a storytelling template is not a template for a finished story?
No, it is.
What is it a template for?
Here's what it is.
Uh-huh.
Where did the anatomical charts come from in the first place? They came from real bodies.
Yeah.
That tend to be of a type.
Right.
And averaged out.
Mm-hmm.
And saying this and this, this and this, these are the types.
Mm-hmm.
And with story templates, the mythical structure, as it's often called, the hero's journey, has 12 parts that are really common in classic stories and are still very effective. But to say, I've got to have this first, second, third, fourth, and to use that and try to fill it in has proven itself in many people's experience to be counterproductive. It's
Okay,
paying
so some
too much
templates-
attention to that chart.
Some templates are really detailed and specific then. Or you can have a really broad template.
Let's make the most broad template. The most broad template,
Yeah, the art.
yeah, it is that a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah. And that's okay to follow that?
Well, when people first explained it to me, I remember, yeah, a beginning, middle, and an end.
Wow.
I got it. And it went off and made just great stories.
Oh, really?
No. when people
That was a good story.
when people start to change the words, a hook, a spine, and a twist,
But that's just as simple, but now just
and
different
now
words.
it's better.
More
Because
effective template.
we've got three metaphors. The first one is the first part of the story should hook people to where they say, I can't leave. The second part, which people call it a spine, I don't think it's the best metaphor. People call it a track. It's the main thrust of this story, of where this story is going. It's going toward a fight, it's going toward a romance, it's going toward a defeat, it's going toward a victory. That's the track. And then the final thing is that the last act, the end of the story, may, in some cases, like a Twilight Zone or an Ohiri story, really have a twist. Or it may simply have an irony, but some kind of surprise for that last part. Twist, it accentuates it, exaggerates it. Those three parts are useful. That can get a person thinking, if this is going to happen at the end, then I know how to hide it, but set it up earlier. So that's only three parts,
Yeah.
and that can be useful.
Okay.
Okay.
So basically some templates can be good because they're broad enough to where you could they don't restrict you to like a specific
Yes.
thing. Okay.
The next one is the classic five-part structure that became so popular in the last 5 years, but it's been around for a long time. It's that you have a setup, which is not considered a formal part of it. The story starts at the inciting incident. The inciting incident is the thing that happens that you cannot go back to normal from.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the story is the progressive complications trying to go back to normal or trying to get something, and it gets worse and worse and worse, or more involved and more risk, more at stake. And then there comes a point of a crisis where we know, oh, it's this way or the other way, and then the climax, it turned out that way, and then the denouement or the resolution. That's 5 parts. Inciting incident, progressive complications, crisis, climax, which go together, and then resolution. And that can be very useful because it's big enough and general enough.
Okay.
Why are you responding that way?
Because it seems like now you're giving these templates, now you're saying, yeah, this could be useful, and it should be
I'm
useful.
going somewhere else. The 12 parts of mythic structure
Yeah?
is 12 parts.
Okay, so don't use that one.
By the time you get to, well, I wouldn't say don't use it.
I'm so confused. This
You see, you're doing
use it or not use it.
You are doing the thing that throws students off and threw me off for a few years, which is to conform to that template too early.
Okay. So don't start with the template.
I wouldn't start with the template. There are much better ways to start. We'll get to them in a minute.
Okay.
There's the 12 parts of the mythic structure, and there's John Truby had 22 steps to a successful story. That I learned that in the mid to late 80s, and it's got a lot of thought in it, but it can be really, really binding. So templates are good, but I don't think that that's where we start.
Okay, cool. I'm on the same page as you now. Where do we go now?
There are many different processes.
Uh-huh.
My old job didn't have room to grow, so I looked into a cybersecurity degree from WGU. Cybersecurity jobs are expected to increase by 35% from 2021 to 2030. I'm a degree that can help you thrive with WGU.
Today we feast al fresco. Butterball. Today we turkey. Dry, brittle hair? Need some intensive care. Pantene. Huh. Neil has GLP-1 meds now?
Yes, Noom combines medication with healthy habits so you can lose the weight and keep it off.
Yeah. GLP-1s starting at $149. That's Noom smart. Noom, the smart way to lose weight.
Your local Lace is the power place. Let's go. Steel, Ego, Mark, Milwaukee, Transfer. The helpful place can power your project, big or small. With orders ready in 15 minutes. Shop now at acehardware.com.
Some writers get in the car and drive and say, we're going to go to New York. New York is generally that way. So they move in that direction from Southern California, and it's going to be an interesting ride.
Mhm.
It's not going to be efficient, but it's going to be exciting. And sometimes starting a story, not knowing where it's going to go,
Well, it's gonna go to New York.
it's going to go to New York, but how are we going to get there?
Right.
And it kicks energy into the process because you write yourself into holes, you write yourself into real problems, and then you've got the energy of getting out of it. There are some people who work this way habitually, and some people can get away with it better than others do. Novelists can get away with it better because there's fewer people involved in the process and there's less at stake when you get lost and have to start all over again or abandon a lot of work that you put in there. So that's one extreme, which is to start with only a general idea of knowing where you're going, or no idea at all.
Okay.
And then the other way is to say, if we're going to get from here to the other side of the continent, we're going to have checkpoints, we're going to do this, we're going to plan it, and that will, for a professional in particular, be more efficient. But it will also lead you onto the major highways and you're going to be less likely to explore territory that might have made it a more exciting trip.
Yeah, you're not gonna stumble on that little farm and meet that cool little family that teaches you how to.
That's right. Go ahead, how to cow.
Yes.
George R. Martin calls that architects versus gardeners.
Because you can't predict the garden?
Yeah, because you're laying seeds and things that can sprout and bear fruit down the line, and you can utilize some of that stuff, but sometimes the stuff that bears fruit will take you off course.
That's great, yeah. There's the architect extreme where you've got so much at stake. It's the professional way to work. If you're working with teams, you pretty much have to work from an outline of the big events and then gradually get down to the final parts, which is dialogue and filming it or writing out the paragraphs. And each one has its advantages. Almost every process is a blend of those two. And so, not to say that one process is necessarily inherently better than the other.
It depends on your situation.
It depends on your situation.
Big
So
team, small team.
that's right. And to assess these takes some time. To assess for this story, you want to have part of your process where you do not know where you're going and you improvise and you put a timer on the improvisation and you really pour some energy into putting yourself at risk. But then you also take that raw material and start to look at how one part relates to another and get ideas with the big map in front of you. Now, that is the first thing I wanted to say about process. There's no one process, but there is a spectrum, and there are also good and bad processes. So those are worth studying. Here's the second thing, and this is something that I learned after years, probably 30 or 40 semesters of teaching storytelling, is that when we want to study the thing that is most important at the beginning of the story, which is character empathy, it's that you've got someone in there, in that story, that you identify with, that you connect with. It was Kevin for you when you were a kid, and it could be others in Home Alone for other people. That is a primary principle of storytelling, that if you're going to open up on this imaginary world, I'm going to watch the story or listen to it or read it and feel like I'm in that world. And so in a storytelling class, one of the first things we do is we watch opening scenes and introductions to characters. I've got great collections of this. The opening 10 or 15 minutes of the movie My Life as a Dog. I don't necessarily recommend the movie to you, but it is a masterpiece of character identification, where you're watching this and you feel like you are this kid. Jesse James is that way. I use that to show, look, here's how we're going to get people empathizing with an outlaw. The first third of Paper Moon, with the character Addie Prey, an 8-year-old girl. These are masterpieces of character empathy, of making you care. And then in fact, we spent a whole season on immoral protagonists. How can you start out with a bank robber and the bank robber's crew, and they're going to go in and rob this bank, and you're going to care about them? These are people you never want to know in life, and yet you're really empathizing with them. Now, that is a principle.
Let me guess.
Go ahead.
They're actually good people. They're just doing bad things.
We make a list. I had a list of about 5 things that I expanded to about 8 things, 8 qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we learn this is we look at people who've done it well.
Mm-hmm.
They have gotten us to care about somebody we shouldn't, and yet they've succeeded. Then we look at it and say, how? What did they do in the story, in that opening part, that made us root for this person?
Right.
All right, now here's the reason I'm telling you this. There can be an illusion created in a student's mind that is the first thing they work on in their process, and it rarely is. It doesn't mean because at the beginning of the story,
Just a struggle to survive. Got to
first
learn
job
to
is
stay
to fix
alive.
In
When the
fact,
world
those
ain't on
empathy
my
scenes,
side,
those introduction
then I
scenes
got to
might
take
be,
what's
and
mine.
often are, some of the last things the storyteller writes. Because they know where the story is going now. They know what's going to happen. They know how it's going to end. So when they write that introductory scene, they can set it up. So the audience expects that or figures that's the last thing that would happen. And now the storyteller is working in a way that maximizes their strategic effect to get an emotion out of the audience. Does that
Then
make
I
sense?
got
Yeah.
to
The
take
illusion
what's
that because something
mine.
happens first in the story, that it should happen first in the process, is an illusion that needs to be shattered early in training so that you don't go down that path and waste a lot of energy.
Okay.
Here are some ways to start.
Uh-huh.
This is a great way to start. There's a storyteller named Donald Davis who would stand in front of audiences and tell stories about his childhood and have you so engaged and laughing so hard. He was just wonderful. And he did a workshop about 20-some years ago in Orange County, and I don't remember the title, but it was something about storytelling from your life, from your own life. And he used a process that Gerald Weinberg wrote a whole book on it called field stoning. It's that you go out into the field and you gather stones, and you don't even know yet what you're going to build, but you'll worry about that later. And Donald Davis, likened it to an architect gathering materials or a quilter gathering yarn. And he settings that you know from your childhood? What are settings that you know so well that you could give a person a tour of the setting? What are places that you remember and have emotional connections to? A lot about gathering material on settings. The next thing is characters. What people in your life do you know well enough to where you can argue with them in your imagination? And you know what they're going to say in the argument. What people in your life have since died that you wish other people could know and that you want to tell people about? And you get a list of these things over a period of time, not just in one sit down. It's something that can go on for months. And then the next thing is to look over these lists that you made and identify where trouble happens. Where are the great crises? Where are the great conflicts? Now that is a way of gathering material so that it is personal material, it's meaningful, and he kept you on really basic elements. Settings and characters, and then events that caused trouble. Those are the three great big major elements of story.
Seems like the events part of it, you can go crazy as you want. That's where you're not identifying events from your own life anymore. Because the first two, it's like people from your life,
Yeah.
settings from your life,
Yeah.
and the third one, you're just blue sky, anything goes, any kind of event.
It can be either. It can be things that you remember,
Okay.
things that have actually happened or not. How would you define story? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Story is a series of events. Does it have to be more specific?
You did really well. When we define story, we take some time in class to try to define story. And the most I can boil it down to is a report of events to move an audience's emotions.
Do you have to include the last part?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Because you, in some ways, need to add more to that. But that, trying to boil it down shows
There has to be a purpose to a story.
Yeah. You're putting these together so that a person will be emotionally involved and emotionally satisfied,
Right.
and so you can elaborate on it. A report can be a telling, it can be a showing,
Mm-hmm.
it can be a reenactment. The word account, I don't really like an account of it, so I chose the word report. But here's the thing: those events can be things that really happen, or they can be things that the storyteller has imagined. They can be based on things that really happen. They can end up being tall tales or fanciful. So the definition of story does not preclude that it really happened or that it's made up. That's just giving us a useful template now that if I am not making a report of these events so that it will give the audience an emotional experience, then why am I doing this? What is my strategy?
Is that a template or is that a process?
It's a definition.
Okay.
Okay, here's why I brought this up.
Yeah.
We were talking about fieldstone,
Yeah.
gathering material for stories, and that it can be exaggerated, but it's coming from raw material of my life.
Right.
Now, here's a limitation of gathering raw material from life.
Your life is the limitation. Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Is that it's very fit for stand-up comics. It's very fit for autobiographical novel writers. It's very fit for a few genres that like this kind of thing. It's probably not that fit for superhero stories.
Right. You can't sci-fi.
Yeah, it could be useful because you're
Yeah.
basing it on real things, and all stories are metaphors anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a particular loss in your childhood, if you had a particular experience in your adolescence, you write a story that isn't literally about that, but it's
Right.
very much about that on
Yeah.
another level.
And you want a superhero story to be grounded on like real life experiences if it's an origin story or something.
Yeah.
With the help of zero accounting software, I've got the right information at my fingertips. So business is a free. And I've got bigger plans. So zero with an X. Help!
I could use a hand. I'm here.
Pop-Tarts blue raspberry? That's fantastic.
Pop-Tarts, 8 hours, watch theirs.
key sensitivity is so common. It immediately feels like somebody's quoting directly on their note. I recommend Sensitive.
Reaching your financial goals can feel impossible. Credit Karma gives you personalized guidance to improve your credit, savings, taxes, and more, so you can find your way to money. Intuit Credit Karma, the karma you can count on.
What you looking at, babe?
Cars on cars.com.
What's wrong with this one?
I just got promoted, so I'm looking for something more.
Ciao.
Ciao. 2 million cars for 2 million possibilities. Cars.com. Where to next?
Okay.
Live classes with me starting in January. Storytelling, picture making, go to martialart.com. Do you know about Pixar's 22 maxims that Emma Coates, who worked there,
I don't know. Tell me about them, please.
she gleaned from the story people 22 reminders
Wow.
of what the Pixar story people care about.
And these are elements,
No,
they're like
actually,
principles to follow.
these are principles, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And they have since been, they are not official. She posted them on a blog and they kind of went viral. And here's my opinion about them. If you needed a short course in storytelling, those 22 reminders are really useful
Okay.
because they boil down what might take you 1,000 pages of reading from other teachers, but they are not organized in any kind of logical sequence.
They're just like 22 random tips
22
on
random
storytelling.
reminders. So one of the things I have students do is go to those 22. Each one of them is worth a week of fleshing out with examples and meditating on.
Mhm.
But we can categorize them a couple different ways. One way to categorize them is which ones of these maxims do you, as a storyteller, most need? Because some of them are advice for one personality type and some of them advice for another personality type.
Mm.
But here's another way that I arrange them. One group of them is about character, one group of them is about story, one group of them is about process. The ones about process
Mm.
are by far the most of that list. Because the most important thing is that your process is getting in the way of your writing a story.
Okay.
Then there's ones about character, really useful ones about character.
Like character development.
Character development, and what is your character not good at?
Mm.
What are they weakest on? And how can you throw that at them somewhere later in the story to see how they respond? Audiences will care about that. Give your character opinions. Those kinds of reminders. The ones about story are the least of that whole development. And one of them is number 7, which is to plan your end, get your end before you do the other part. It's the same thing R.L. Stein said.
Yeah.
So those 22 maxims are very useful as a short course in story principle, especially if you don't just go over them quickly, if you really do take the time to unpack them and see if you can find some form in them.
Right.
Okay.
Actually practice them so they become part of your language.
Yeah, they're not a template.
Yeah.
They're a consultant
Mm-hmm.
who, if you are making mistakes in crafting your story, go to the wisdom of what this studio did, because they succeeded above the other animation studios at the time, because they said it was with them it was all about story. That first one they did, Knick Knack, I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes.
It's just a real short story, but what a great piece of turnaround for the audience.
Is it obvious, like, if I go through these 22 and I want to spend a week on each one, is it really clear to me what I should do in that week?
No, I think that they are a consultant that you can say, I need that.
Yeah, but if I want to spend a week on one of them, what am I doing in that week?
It depends on which one.
Where I'm at is, I feel like I really want to go in and actually read all of them and figure them out. The listeners probably want to do the same thing.
You mean they're getting anxious for this to go on?
No, they probably want to go read that list.
Yes.
Because it seems like a really good resource. But we're going to carry through the episode.
With the episode.
So what's next?
Also, there are people online who have elaborated on all 22 of those maxims
Mm.
and really fleshed them out.
Okay.
So they are useful as discussion prompters. They are useful for anyone, and they are also not officially sanctioned by the powers at Pixar. They are Emma Coates leaking out the kinds of things that had conversations that came up among the Pixar story. Okay. Okay. Can I do Socratic irony with you on the next part about the elements of a story?
Yeah.
Good. I just started.
Yeah.
What are the elements of a story, you think?
Well, you kind of told us already, I feel like, because you told us about the stones.
Tell me what you remember.
There's the characters, the settings.
How can you have a story without character?
Character, setting, and event. Are those the three elements?
Those are three great big categories of elements. Yeah.
Okay, each one has, like, there's multiple elements of a character.
It's like with a picture. You can have a picture without color. You cannot have a picture without tone or shape.
Well, you can't have a picture without color.
Because even value is colorless, right? But when you
It's
have
not
a picture,
colorless.
right?
It is a color.
Yes, it is a color that we would call not a color. Okay, go ahead and challenge it.
Who is we? Artists? No, artists. We should say gray is a color.
Okay, we'll say gray is a color, but we are not balancing ones and cools in that black and white picture.
No.
Okay. Now there's a place I'm trying to go with this.
Just like if you painted with all red,
Yeah.
you're also not painting with warms and cools.
Right. But you're painting with a color.
It's not colors.
Yeah, but I'm trying to make another point here,
Yeah.
which is that character has a number of sub-elements
Mm-hmm.
that may not be relevant. For example, when you are telling a joke, character development, a character arc, character contradictions, empathy, character responsibility, all of those sub-elements or
Right.
principles of character design do not apply to a 20-second story.
Okay.
And they might not apply to a 3-minute story. By the time you get to more developed stories, you want to get beyond stereotypes. And so here's how you boil down the most basic elements. What do you have to have in a story? How can you tell a story that has no characters? Can you?
Depends. Does a character have to be human?
No, not at all. It can be a toaster. It can be clouds. Should I end this?
I'm trying. Hold on. I want to be a smartass.
I know you do.
Just let me try. No, I mean, obviously I know the answer is no, but it's like wind is the character.
It ends up being, if it's going to have any.
Even a setting becomes a character.
You are a good student, Bella. You cannot tell a story that does not have a setting, even though you might think, well, I sat through a whole play where it was just two floating heads. And there was no reference to a setting at all. And yet, isn't that a setting? It's like with what we did with the black and white thing. Isn't that a color?
Yes.
And most
I was
stories,
right.
most stories are not told with just two floating heads in a black void, which is a setting.
Right.
Okay, and then what's the third thing?
Well, I said all three.
Yeah, it's
Character, then and setting.
Now, each one of those can be elaborated on, and here are some principles.
Ranger knows that if you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, you go to great lengths, and sometimes heights, to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Ranger for professional grade products and next day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRANGER, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
If you've got a character, one of the first things for the audience's experience is that they connect somehow. They may connect by intense dislike. They may connect by identification that character's like me. They may say that character is not like me, the superhero is not like me, but the superhero is an ideal. It's like me in my hopes and dreams. But some way, the character is as one teacher called it, the emotional door into the story. It's a way to get in. That's character empathy. There are many other aspects of character. The characters are types that storytellers paint a character a certain way. The way Don Richardson said it is you're stacking the deck. You, as the storyteller, are in charge of who you see do what first. And one of my students told me about his dad, who abandoned the family when he was about 12 years old. And as he unfolded that story, it was so heartbreaking. I hated his dad. And then as he could see, I really painted my dad in a bad light. He said, my dad had some really good qualities. And he told me some of the good qualities. That he could win anybody over. He was trying to balance out that his dad was the bad guy, and his dad was the bad guy. But he was trying to balance out by telling the good qualities. Now think about this. If he had started the story telling me the good qualities of his dad, and then it comes to the crisis where the dad is going to abandon the family, I would have said, don't do it. I'm on your side. I like you. You're my friend. And there would have been the dread and the emotional letdown of a person I cared about disappointing me. You see, I would have been rooting for that guy.
What's better? Because there's an emotional roller coaster ride with that too.
When he tells me the good qualities after he's already introduced him for his bad qualities, it just makes me hate him more. Especially when he told me what the good quality was. So his dad's a smooth talker. He's a manipulative guy. I could have had a whole different experience if he had told it in a different order. You're thinking,
I'm trying to figure out what you're saying. Which one of those is a stronger story?
which one do you think it is?
Well, I'm thinking it's the one that makes you feel like crap at the end. Because it's a stronger emotional reaction.
Yeah. Can the dad ever redeem himself?
Yeah.
What if he started the story with the dad being a great guy, and then 1/5 of the way in, he makes this terrible decision, and then he spends the rest of the story trying to redeem himself, and we finally say, okay, you did wrong, but I want to give you a break. The strategy of the storyteller of what to do with a character includes these sub-elements. Empathy, responsibility, if empathy is at the beginning, responsibility is at the end. Another one is surprises. That this character may be of a type, but they aren't just of a type. If they're always of a type, that's a stereotype. Great for comedies.
Okay.
But there comes a point where it doesn't feel real if we don't see the other sides of them. And if there's time. Pardon?
The individuality. There has to be some individuality in a stereotype. Is that what you're saying?
You can make a very individualized stereotype and still a stereotype. Because a
But
person's
it's more believable when there is that individuality in the stereotype.
That's right. The dude in The Big Lebowski is kind of a stereotype, I guess you would say. He's a loser. He's a hippie, an aging hippie, and he does not need to be that complex to be funny. In fact, jokes rely on stereotypes so that you can see that this person's always this way. Oh, they're always this way. Watch, they'll be that way if they're with their parents. Oh, they'll be that way if they're with the stranger. Oh, they'll be that way this way. And it's always that way. And that can be entertaining, but it does not feel real, because anyone we're around for a while, we start to see that they have a couple of technical designations. Counterpoints, they have little things about them that are different than the way they normally are. And then contradictions. They're really strong this way, and they're really strong the opposite way, and it's shocking to see. And the more contradictory a character is, the more it can feel like an assault to the audience. That it can make them feel offended by it. That I like that guy. I hate it that he abandoned his family, or the other way around. I hated that guy. I didn't want them to redeem him. Contradictions are the richest kinds of development of character.
So okay, so here's the question. So like, there's an emotional reaction there, but it's like, it's hatred towards the writers of the story.
That often happens.
And that not necessarily making a stronger story just because there's an emotional reaction.
And that's why there's one classic way for contradictions to be handled that is the hardest job for the craft of a storyteller. And it's to take the character from the beginning of the story until the end of the story and have them go from this extreme to the other extreme and legitimize it. So the audience saw it happen and felt every stage of it. And there are so many great examples of that in stories. But in movies, I start with 12 Angry Men because it's a wonderful example of character arcs. And of course, Groundhog Day is a classic example of character. How can you have a guy go from this extreme to this extreme? And when you sit through the story, the whole story, one frame at a time, one scene at a time, shows you why that really could happen. And one of the most powerful is Michael Corleone's arc in Godfather 1. It's just so emotionally overwhelming to see that happen to a character. Now, what is that? That's character, giving empathy, then giving surprises, and then even seeing them contradict themselves to where the whole sweep of the story was a record of a person making a radical change. A lot of classic stories have that quality. That's character.
Mm-hmm.
Should we move on to setting?
Yes.
Setting is a character. That's the great principle. Setting evokes a mood. Setting has things we expect.
Okay.
Dungeons feel different from palaces. Outdoors on a bright day feels better than inside a dingy living room. And settings have surprises. Sometimes the worst places are the places where the best things happen. Sometimes the big, beautiful homes and mansions with the people with all the money have tremendous suffering in them. So a storyteller can craft settings to be recognizable or surprising or have arcs to them where the setting changes because the characters change it. They redeem the setting. They turn the desert into an oasis. They turn the oasis into a junkyard. Settings are characters, and that is the simplest way you can say, how do you learn setting? See the setting as an active and interactive character with your other characters.
That's helpful.
Okay. Third one.
Events.
Events.
Events are characters. Events are settings.
Events can be characters. I guess they could be. Do you know what a Deus Ex Machina is?
Yeah. Yes. No. No.
Give it a try.
No. I've heard of it, but no. It's not the one.
A Deus Ex Machina
Yeah.
is when the story ends. Look, my hand's covered with the sheddings of the setting that I'm.
It's getting as old as you.
Yeah. A Deus Ex Machina
Yeah.
is a final event of the story that solves the problems in the story and came outside of nowhere. It did not come from one of the characters. It's cheating the ending.
Well, wait, isn't it something else though too? Doesn't that come from something else?
What do you think?
Literally, the god in the machine.
The god in the machine or the god in the woodwork, that at the end of the story, when you have this tremendous crisis, you just have an earthquake that kills everybody. At the end of the story, you got a tremendous crisis, and somebody else comes in that hasn't been in the story before and just solves it all. And it is no more fair to the audience's emotions than to sit through a prize fight and you're rooting for your character, your fighter, and then they say, he's tired, let's just bring in a fresh guy to finish off our opponent. That just doesn't feel fair. And Deus Ex Machinas can work very well in comedies, as has been pointed out by many teachers. Deus Ex Machinas, every Little Nemo in Slumberland is a Deus Ex Machina. He just wakes up at the end. Alice in Wonderland is a Deus Ex Machina. Big Lebowski is a Deus Ex Machina, and it doesn't make any difference because it's so entertaining that the story is an excuse to put funny stuff in there. Now,
Okay.
Events That would be an example of an event that's a character. It's just an event comes out of nowhere that solves everything.
Okay. But it's not useful to think of it that way all the time. Like setting
No.
as a character.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so tell me about
Events. Okay, here is the principle of events. Events are things that happen, things that people do, trouble people cause, unfortunate coincidences. That Pixar maxim of coincidences to get people out of trouble are cheating. That's Deus Ex Machina. Sometimes events, coincidences to get people out of trouble are funny because sometimes happy accidents happen. But events are the things that the template now becomes useful because we can see that this is where a character was comfortable, has a problem introduced to them.
Yeah.
Their life was a normal, ordinary world. Everything was in harmony. Woody's got all of the toys that are under his command. Marty's got problems, but his life is okay. And then something happens that throws it all out of balance. That's the call to adventure or the inciting incident. One woman made a chart of all of these different terms of the templates and made one horizontal line.
Everyone said I'd have to pay extra to earn IT certifications. Everyone except WGU. There, I earned a master's in IT with certifications included at no extra cost. Now I'm ready to move ahead in my career.
You see here? Meat Aussie. It's giving moisture with a capital N. Made for every type and texture, so you can drench curls, make waves, and turn up the volume. Moisture made for everyone. Get Aussie. Awesome hair for everyone.
That shows that the call to adventure can very much be the inciting incident, and other people will have other terms for this. But now that template can be useful to say, I think I'm going to start the story not with an ordinary group. I'm going to start the story with a person in real trouble. James Bond. This guy's life is just full of danger. And then he resolves it. Okay, everything's back to normal in the first 10, 15 minutes. But then in resolving it, it has created another bigger problem. This is where events are arranged. If we're going to get past the 12-step template, events are arranged for the ups and downs of fortune. That's the most important thing about how they are arranged. That I feel hopeful, or that I'm worried. Oh, I feel terrible. I'm dreading. No, wait, there's hope. Oh, no, there isn't. That roller coaster ride of up and down, of reversals of fortune. I call them fortune graphs. People call them turning points, plot points, progressions, setbacks, reversals. There's all sorts of names for the same phenomenon. But one of the things we have students do is go to master stories and arrange them on a graph and see what the strategy of the storyteller was with the events. I've done it with Twilight Zones. I do it with, I've got about 8 early Simpsons episodes that we do it with. And then when you started to see there are strategies for how to get the effect at the end, if it's going to end up, you really dig in the worry. If it's going to end down, you really lift up the hope. That if you want that vase to crash at the end, you lift the vase up really high so that the crash is meaningful. If it's going to end on a victory, you pull that basketball down to the bottom of the deep end to get the maximum contrast of what happens at the end. Now the templates become useful because this is where the storyteller can arrange, if they need to, if their instincts aren't just helping them along anyway, where is it getting too easy for Kevin? It's really bad news that he's left behind. And then in a moment it turns around, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. And then we have an hour of him enjoying himself at home? No, just enough to establish it's the highest thing, and then just say it's not as good as you think it is, and then we've got the ups and downs that take us through a strongly crafted story. That is one thing about events, is the roller coaster ride of the audience's emotions for what's going well, for the person they care about, and what's going bad.
How come these templates are focused so much on the events? Like, are events the most important part of it?
Events are what tracks the story. It's the difference between a portrait and a story. If you show a picture of a person, it's just a picture. We only know what they look like. That's a characterization. If we really want to know them, we're going to have to see them interact with other characters, make decisions, create trouble, avoid trouble, and those are going to have to, they have to, in order for the audience to understand and not be going on inside them, they have to be externalized with events.
Okay.
Some of the most fun that a storyteller has with events is setting them up and paying them off. Events that happen earlier in the story that later are going to turn the story around and create progressions and setbacks, reversals. My favorite example of it is Krusty Gets Busted. You ever seen it? The first third of that, everything that happens in there is going to be used later. And Back to the Future was a masterpiece of it. Back to the Future is filled with stuff in the first third that gets brought back in to turn the whole story around from hopelessness to hope and vice versa. Those, when they are hidden, are called plants.
Give me an example from Back to the Future.
Back to the Future, the example is when he's going to kiss his girlfriend. And he gets interrupted by, "Save the clock tower! Save!" And he gives her a quarter and sends her away, and then she hands him the piece of paper, and then she writes her phone number, Jennifer writes her phone number on it, and later, when Doc says, "The only thing that could do it, a bolt of lightning. Unfortunately, you never know when it's going to strike." And then he's got the piece of paper, and it says that it happens at exactly at this time. That is a setup, specifically a plant. We didn't know it was coming back to change the hope of the story. Did that make sense? And this is a fun thing to do since they're so abundant. Go to your favorite stories and see what surprised you later that was set up, but you didn't suspect that it was coming back. That's a setup called a plant to be paid off later. Sometimes storytellers point at that plant and they say, "Remember this." They have music that cues you, bum, bum, bum. And say, "I better remember what that person just said." A threat, a promise, the camera showing the brand on the horse's butt, and it lingers on it. Say, "Better remember that brand." That is pointing to the setup.
Could you have a pointer to a setup that is actually a distraction from the real point?
The best that I know of that happened in Toy Story 1. By the match that Sid put in Woody's holster. Do you know what I'm talking about? Later on, we'll have a cookout. That was a pointer. And it was a false pointer. I'm giving away too much, though, huh?
No.
And so everybody already knows this?
Yeah, everyone's seen Toy Story. Who's going to see it?
You haven't seen Toy Story?
He's seen the liar.
You did. You sure did. Are you almost done? Because I want to get to Christmas Crazy Crashes. We had a little plant in the beginning of this. We see that? Do you see that?
Yeah.
It was actually a distraction because we're not going to do it.
Okay, then let me hurry up. Hurry up. Shall I hurry up?
I don't know. People are going to hate Christian's Crazy Questions even more. Like, what? You rushed through it just to get to that?
2 hours, right?
Yeah, this is long.
Yeah.
Which is, Marshall, it's fine. People won't mind a longer episode knowing that this is one of the last episodes.
Yeah.
And this deserves
Yeah, yes.
Toy Story has the best hidden plant that I know of in a movie, was distracted by a pointer.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, if you have not seen Toy Story, do not allow me to ruin it for you. Just speed up to the next part that tells you where we're going from this, because I'm going to give away the biggest one.
They'll be online.
Yeah. At the end, when they're trying to get back to Andy's, we have, in that period of time, we have a huge number of reversals where they're going to make it, they're not going to make it, they're going to make it, they're not going to make it. It's just an incredible masterpiece of ups and downs that are the most extremes. And one of them was that Buzz had a rocket on his back, and Woody has a match in his hole.
Like a rocket, it was tied to him by Sid.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, it was. Now, here's what happens. When Buzz is introduced in the story, he's got a glass helmet. It's really established. We don't know that's coming back. When Sid tortures Woody, he tortures him with a magnifying glass and the sun's rays. We don't know that's coming back. Both of those things were interesting in and of their own right.
Mm-hmm.
But Sid also put a match into Woody's holster when it's going to rain. He says later on we'll have a cookout. And that's a pointer. Oh, he's going to light him on fire or do something like that. So that's a bad thing. But then when they are trying to get back to Andy's, to the new house, they're stranded. There's no hope. They don't know how to get there. And then Woody realizes, I've got this match. And we say, oh, and you know what happens next, right? He lights the match. Good news. Truck goes by, yanked away. Now there's absolutely no hope. And then,
Cross, come on, man. A smile.
This is me smiling.
oh boy.
Get the viral L'Oreal Paris Infallible Setting Spray. It's transfer resistant, water resistant, and 36-hour wear. Get it now.
Woody sees that the sun going through Buzz's glass helmet can do the same thing Sid did to him, and they light it. That's good news. And then the bad news is he's got a rocket on his back and they're going to blow up. But the good news is that he can take it off really quickly, and they get up there, and then you're flying, no, and falling to stop. It was just an up, down, up, down, up, down, and those things were established earlier. It was, to me, it was a brilliant piece of story strategy to unite the first part of the story and the last part of the story. And one of the things that when you do plants, pointers, subplots too, well, that's a whole other thing, and make it so that later they come back and affect the story, it means that everyone who sat through the story from the beginning is in the club. They know the context of this, and they understand, okay, that's a satisfying feeling that thing I'm in on is so significant at the end. You're looking pensive.
No, I'm satisfied.
That's good. That's good kind of pensive. Is this giving you ideas for stories?
Yeah. That's good. I liked your story.
Thank you.
You took me back to Toy Story. Good ending. Cooper watched it recently, and
I got to tell you about the experience of Toy Story for a 4.5-year-old. It came out when my son was 4.5 years old. We went to see it at the theater.
Mm.
He was sitting to the left of me. We did not have television. He was not that sophisticated about how stories work at 4.5 years old. We're in a public movie theater. He's watching this, and there's a part where they're stranded at the gas station, and a truck comes up while Woody is on the ground, and it stops just before it's going to run over his head, and his head goes like this, and I hear to my left, I hear this. I say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. He says, how do you know? And then, sure enough, They got through that. But then the fight with Buzz and the back and forth, and for the rest of that movie, it was a roller coaster ride of the awareness that a 4.5-year-old sitting right next to me is about to have a public meltdown. And I kept saying, it's going to be okay. This will be okay. And he kept saying, how do you know? And it occurred to me, he did not know that this was written. A 4.5-year-old brain does not know that people contrived this.
Yeah.
But never was I so aware of fortune dynamics. Never was I so aware that when anything goes well, it is going to be pulled away to go badly, and up and down and up and down to the end. Afterward, I said, what do you think of the movie? He said, I hated it. But by the time he was 7 and he watched it, he loved it. It's just that the intensity of those ups and downs were so great. That dug into me the value of involving an audience by never letting them to have it go too well for too long, or go too badly for too long without giving them relief. This is weaving a story for the emotional roller coaster and also for events tying together. I'm going to give a set of suggestions for how to learn storytelling.
Okay.
The first thing is Pixar's maximum 10, I think it is. Study great stories and take the time to discuss them with people, to chart out their fortune graphs, to make character maps if that helps. I would recommend at least 3 Simpsons episodes. Let me tell you what Simpsons episodes I highly recommend. If you're going to study story with me, I watch these ones because these are the ones that I'm going to take time with. The first is Bart the Daredevil. Bart the Daredevil is a masterpiece of reversals, among other things. It exemplifies character desire, conflicts, and reversals.
Cool.
A second one is Krusty Gets Busted, because Krusty Gets Busted exemplifies setups, plants, and payoffs. A third one is Bart Gets an F. Bart Gets an F has hardly any plants and payoffs. I think 2 or 3 of them, and one of them just immediate. Bart Gets an F has great pointers that make you figure, how's he going to do that? Oh, something's coming. Is an example of protagonist responsibility. It is not a Deus Ex Machina. And then there are a whole bunch of other things that we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about the interest strategies, the difference between mystery and suspense and dramatic irony, which every storyteller who tells a story is telling a story in one of those modes, whether they know it or not. And I use the telltale head for that because the writers of that episode, who wrote it really rapidly, they wrote the episode, and then they made a major change to what we were talking about with my student whose dad abandoned the family. They decided to put one part toward the end at the beginning, and it made it a stronger story to let everybody know where this is going. But Telltale Head is another one that I would add into there, and a few others. I recommend those as stories that are only 25 minutes or 23 minutes for students to analyze. Can't do much better. Okay? And if you say that I don't want to do Simpsons episodes, Groundhog Day, Paper Moon, Godfather, whatever genre that you're going to do. The next thing on the list, try your own.
Practice.
Yes, give it a shot. Otherwise, all we do is become theorists. We can talk about story on podcasts or with relatives, and they can say, oh gosh, you know so much. But it is only theoretical knowledge until we do the really, really hard work, which is to try to see a story through. And I recommend to start, the way we did it in the last few years, in the Fundamentals of Storytelling class, is a 1-minute story by midterm and a 3-minute story for the final. And you can put 100 hours into a 3-minute story, or you can put 2 or 3 hours into a 3-minute story, depending on how important it is to you. But start small. Comics are just great. To do a 4-page. With Tad, we used to do 4-page Nemo stories. That can be 10 panels. It can be 40 panels, depending on how many you've got on the page, but shorter is better to start. And then, if you're talking about this story with other people and comparing it to your great masters who you're so impressed with, then you've got a standard by which you can compare whether you've handled these reversals well, whether you've really made an ending that is worthwhile. We spend at least a week, but you could spend a season on killer endings. What makes a story that might not be that good in a lot of ways a great ending? Casablanca's a great ending. Watched Gran Torino recently, it's Flight with Denzel Washington. There are some stories that it does not make any difference whether they were great in every way. The ending is so powerful that it's worthy. And to say, what is it? And we make lists of what is it that has to happen previous to that that makes that ending so emotionally powerful and meaningful, and then say, how do I apply this to my story, and brainstorm those ideas.
That's a good point.
Yeah. What's the next thing?
Get to know your genre.
Yes. The value of getting to know your genre is that if you're going to write 23-minute sitcoms or animated sitcoms, then not everything in there applies to the personal story that's supposed to be based on what really happened in your life. Not everything that a stand-up comic is going to use in their genre of storytelling is going to apply to a TV series that's a drama of somebody's life unraveled. Mm-hmm. And so the more a storyteller becomes familiar with their genre, and Alan Moore makes a big deal of this, the more you know your genre, the more you can see that's been done, that's been done, that's been done. And then when you tap into, I know what they do. What has not been done? How could I mess around with this? Maybe evolve the genre, but at least to experiment around with the genre, but you're experimenting around on a playing field that you know from experience. So that's the value, is that you can't study 100 stories. It'll take too long. But you can study a dozen or 20 and then say, I'm going to specialize in my favorite stories that are of this genre and get to know them pretty well.
Okay.
What else?
Critique your work.
Critique your work and get to know the cardinal sins of storytellers.
God damn,
the first
man.
cardinal sin we'll say is to be boring.
Muddy
To tell a
as
story
fuck.
where the audience tunes out.
Fuck that.
Pixar has a maxim, don't just indulge what you like to write. Make sure you're thinking about the audience. Character empathy and reversals have everything to do with it. Interesting is where you don't know what's coming
Good thing I got
next.
no cadmium.
You're worried or you're hopeful, and the roller coaster rides have. Well, roller coaster rides are not boring. Another one is meandering versus woven. Are these just random events going all over the place, and the audience is seeking a way for them to come together? Just what's going on in your head as I talk.
I know this is off. I
Does
know
this
that's
relate
fucking off.
to anything?
That's not
With this.
fucking
That's where
right.
horizontal lines can help, because you can say this weaves up to this one, and it's
not
hidden.
that
They don't know it's coming back. On this
saturated
one,
either.
it's not hidden. It's out in the open. They're expecting that to come back. That is weaving things together rather than meandering.
No. Fucker.
Brittany wanted to pivot her career, so she signed up for a Google Career Certificate and got to work learning valuable skills, which helped her get a new job.
I'm fully remote and my salary has increased about $30,000.
If you're ready to get a job you love, let's get to work.
It's the fucking same as that. Oh my god, bro. Nah.
And a third one is how killer endings happen. Disappointing. That was pretty good. I didn't like the end that much. Why didn't you like the ending? Well, I don't like it when people die. Well, that's your issue. But when
That's your problem.
when people die and it's really emotionally powerful, we'll call that a satisfying ending. And a disappointing ending is one where the ending was not justified or set up properly, or there was no sacrifice. That's a major one. If there was no sacrifice on somebody's behalf to bring about that ending, that is a major risk for a story. It can be done. But most real powerful endings, you have got somebody making a choice because of that third of those 5 basic portions of the template. The crisis.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
So it has to be a character, or a character has to give up something?
There's a movie called Sophie's Choice that is one of the most powerful examples of a sacrifice. It's just one little scene of the movie, but it's what the movie is titled after. That typically, in a classically structured story, the ending happens because a character either chose to get their act together to make the lightning strike that DeLorean. The character either chose to be on time or not, to give up this so that they could get that. The character makes a choice where there is some pain or loss in the choice, because this is fundamental to human life anyway. So if the story is going to relate to human life and be satisfying, we get a chance to vicariously experience someone else going this way or that way and see what the result of it is at the end. It may be horrible, it may be wonderful, it may be that they got what they wanted, but they had to lose something that they wanted, but it's okay. It may be that they got what they wanted and it's the worst thing that ever could have happened to them, because look what they got with it. There's all sorts of ways it can go, but sacrifice is a very common aspect of satisfying stories.
Okay. Cool.
Well,
Cool story, bro.
I've never talked so long on a podcast, and that's saying something.
I thought it was good, though.
Yeah, I learned a lot.
Go ahead. Now, are you going to apply it? Are you working on a story?
I mean, always, right? Everyone is. Yeah, I want to. Anyway, guess what time it is? Do I have to do some kind of setup and all this
You have to sing a song.
That's a whole other thing. That's timing. Go ahead. Let's try it. Let's time it dramatically. Go ahead.
Are you ready?
What's next, Stan?
Christian's crazy
I was thinking
question.
we could delay it a little further by me saying, does it start with a K?
Yes, it does.
Oh, then I think I know what it is.
Oh my god.
I love that Christian's crazy question sounds like it's the same letter, but it's actually 3 different letters.
It sure is. I didn't know that.
KCQ.
Well, okay, so I wrote down a few questions. Normally they have context, and I think in the past they haven't worked because there was a lack of context. Like one of the questions.
Wow. Fuck
what
this
would it
painting.
take to shave your head?
What would it take?
Yeah.
A razor blade.
I'm trying to formulate